Hello and welcome to the first K-State Collegian Sports video blog. I am your host, sports editor Tim Everson, and next to me
is Andrew Hammond,
sports writer for the K-State Collegian. Basically what we're going to do every week before every K-State game, we're just going to give you a little rundown of what we found out in this week's earlier press conference, other matchups that we're looking forward to, and other things going on with K-State sports that we find interesting and enlightening. So, without further ado, Bill Snyder had his first press conference of the season on Tuesday. A lot of bombs were dropped in there as far as the depth chart are concerned. Andrew, what stood out most to you as far as what we found out?
I think it had to be the fact that he names the starting quarterback even before any of the media could ask a question regarding that. For those who don't know, it will be Jesse Ertz as the starting quarterback, and one thing that I was very impressed with Coach Snyder is he gave an explanation to why he made the decision and the other roles that the other quarterbacks are going to have to essentially deal with now.
Exactly. He was very kind of forthcoming with all that info, especially coming from a coach that tends to not be so forthcoming when it comes to issues concerning his players and what he has going on behind doors. But we did find out it is going to be redshirt sophomore Jesse Ertz out of Minneapolis, Iowa. He came in redshirt his first year, and then during his redshirt year won the Red Raider award for the top the scout team player. Last year was kind of dinged up a little bit, so he was third in the depth chart behind senior Jake Waters and backup sophomore at the time, Joe Huebner. Aside from that, defensively, there weren't a lot of shakeups, but one big thing that we found out was at the safety position. There was kind of a little surprise on that. What did we find out there?
Well, Caleb Pruitt and Sean Newland have essentially been battling since really the spring for that free safety spot. It will be Caleb Pruitt over Sean Newland, but Coach Snyder did say that both would get playing time as far as that first game goes.
And it was interesting, the sophomore out of Blue Springs High School coming in also with redshirt freshman running back Dalvin Warmack and sophomore linebacker Elijah Lee. He had a lot of potential, big upside for this kid, and didn't really play up to that potential. Kind of got put behind graduated senior Dylan Schellenberg last year. Comes in, has what I suppose to be a great fall camp, and then really took that top spot. And it's great news for K-State because he's such an athletic player that it's really going to pay dividends for K-State down the line, especially considering how young they're getting him into that starting role. Aside from that press conference, there wasn't a whole lot else. Running back stayed pretty much the same. One big thing that did change, though, was at wide receiver. We saw redshirt freshman Dominique Heath, who lit up the spring game last year, starting for K-State at wide receiver, in addition to starting on special teams.
And really, there's kind of a youth movement. A lot of these guys are going to be much younger. It's not a lot of JUCO players. You're going to see a lot of juniors and sophomores, and really a lot of redshirt freshmen and redshirt sophomores sitting on that depth chart. So even though it's going to be kind of a learning process, I think that Coach Snyder is willing to go ahead and take that, be patient with it. So a lot of K-State fans need to be patient as well. I know that's kind of hard for some of you guys out there, but as long as they're patient with this process, this team could be contending maybe as soon as maybe later on this year, making an impact in the Big 12 season.
Yeah, definitely interesting. There's going to be a lot of yips maybe with all these young guys out there, but definite upside for K-State rolling in to Saturday's game against South Dakota, which brings us into our next segment, which we like to call Right or Wrong. We're going to go through a couple different topics, and we're going to decide whether the statements that we found out on Tuesday's press conference, whether it was the right call or maybe whether the coaching staff, we don't really agree with the decisions. We're going to start off with sophomore quarterback Jonathan Banks, the transfer out of California. We found out that he's going to redshirt after coming in right at the start of fall camp. Andrew, how do you feel about that, and do you feel that the redshirt was a good call for him, which Coach Snyder said was his choice?
Yeah. I talked to him at K-State Media Day, and I believe it was the right call that Jonathan Banks redshirts, because you have so many quarterbacks on the depth chart right now. Does he really need to clog that up even more? He's been around for essentially maybe 3 or 4 months. There's a learning curve that he still had trouble trying to get, and you have 3 quarterbacks that have been in the system that know the system more than Jonathan Banks, and I see nothing wrong with him being redshirted. I think this actually transitions a lot easier into wide receiver. So look for Jonathan Banks to possibly down the road this time next year be a wide receiver, and it may come as early as the spring.
Yeah, I think you're dead on here. I think it was a great call on him to go ahead and sit this year out, get into the system a little bit more, and honestly, wide receivers being thrown out, and that makes a lot of sense. This athleticism, but something that I've been kind of thinking about, K-State has 2 senior quarterbacks right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe he makes a switch over to the defensive end. It won't be the first time that a K-State quarterback has switched over to the defensive side of the ball. Definite possibility for him, but definitely sitting out this year. Great choice for him to grow.
And one of the things about that, just wrapping this up, is he's so athletic. You look at his film and you look how athletic he is. You can't keep that athleticism off the field, or you can't keep it at one position. It's going to be used somewhere else on the field. There's 22 positions. You can use him anywhere else on that field. Mm-hmm. So if you can just plug him in as a if he bulks up, maybe as a tight end, kind of a skinnier, kind of a lighter fly down the field tight end, or even at wide receiver. So there's a spot for Jonathan Banks on this team. It just may not be a quarterback.
Exactly, especially. People talking about next year. We have Skylar Thompson coming in, who is a highly ranked prospect. There's also another quarterback on the roster right now, the transfer from Northern Illinois, Landon Root, who has also been said to be a great passer and another kind of piece to this quarterback puzzle. So definitely a crowded area there for Banks. Good for him to kind of sit it out and get things figured out. Moving on to the next topic, Charles Jones, the junior, was named as the starter again for K-State at the beginning of the season after last season not having that great of a year. And that may be a little bit of an overstatement saying not having that great of a year. Splitting time with the graduated DeMarcus Robinson, again, didn't really show that much, just kind of danced around a lot, didn't really run as hard as you think. Fairly decent goal line running back, but I think his longest run of the year was 18 yards. So definite disappointment. He's back on the top of the depth chart. A lot of youth, though, at running back. A lot of people thought that a younger guy would jump up there. Charles Jones is number 1 on the depth chart. Right or wrong, Andrew?
I go wrong here, and I'm going to say it with this. I'm not sure that Charles Jones is going to be the starting running back by the time they kick it off at Oklahoma State. Because you have Dalvin Warmack and Justin Sullivan, who was really one of the highlights of the spring game. It's a crowded backfield, and today's college football, you need multiple running backs to be successful. So maybe Charles Jones has kind of got it together. We'll find out Saturday night, but I'm not so sure that having him one of the depth chart kind of gives them that comfort.
Exactly.
But apparently it does.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think this is the wrong call, but I see what the coaching staff is trying to do here. They're trying to give their guy with the experience a chance to show. But I'll tell you what, if he struggles in the first couple games of the season, I see no reason why Dana Dimmel and Coach Snyder don't just yank him out of there and give Silman or Warmack a try, especially considering that both of those guys have shown to have so much upside and so much potential back there and are really the future for K-State at that position. All right, and finally, moving on to the final topic of our right and wrong segment. Biggest question on this team is at wide receiver. Is the biggest unknown at the wide receiver spot, or is there another position maybe that you think that is a little more unknown?
I would say you could say it's at wide receiver. Then you could say it's at running back. You could say it's at the quarterback spot. Really, you can, and I'm going to make this argument. I think the biggest question is the offense as a whole, because you're replacing so many players, not just at the wide receiver spot. You're trying to build a running game that didn't even average over 6 or didn't even get over 600 total yards from a year ago. Now you have a quarterback who hasn't thrown a pass in a regular season game since high school. And the first pass he threw in the spring game was an interception return for a touchdown. So across the board, you have all of these issues. And luckily enough, you get a team in South Dakota who is probably one of the worst FCS teams, so you kind of get the opportunity to work those kinks out. But I would say across the board, it's the offense.
Still one of the worst FCS teams, but still receiving votes in the FCS poll. That just shows you how strong.
Ain't that something?
Yeah, it's weird. It just shows you how strong that Missouri Valley Conference is. North Dakota State, South Dakota State's actually pretty decent. Yes. Illinois State and Northern Iowa, all big contenders in that conference in the FCS division. For me, the biggest question on the team is what Andrew was talking about. It's at quarterback. Look, we know that the coaches have confidence in Jesse Ertz and his ability. We know that he can throw the ball and he can pass the ball, and he can run the ball because of his numbers that he put up in high school, setting all of those records in Iowa. Over 8,000 yards passed for in high school. That's ridiculous. However, there are a lot of things that we don't know about Jesse Ertz. One common thread between Colin Klein and Jake Waters is they were both gamers. They got in there and they had the mentality that they wanted to win, and they didn't care if they were losing a leg and if they had to jump off a cliff to do it. They were going to win. And we don't know if Jesse Ertz has that cutthroat mentality yet. We don't know what he has, and I think that at quarterback is the biggest question mark. Does that necessarily mean that it's bad? No, I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of reason for optimism for K-State at the quarterback position. However, there's a lot of things that we just don't know. Coming up next, we have our first guest. He's going to tell us all about the K-State volleyball season, including last weekend's tournament in Miami and this weekend's Barney's Invitational in Bramlage Coliseum. We'd like to welcome K-State volleyball beat writer Grant Cohen. All right, and we're here with Grant Cohen, K-State volleyball beat writer. Grant, well, what can you tell us so far about the Volley Cats and how have they been so far?
Well, they've shown a lot of promise right now. I mean, it's hard to replace 5 seniors on a volleyball roster, but they're doing a very nice job of it. They're 2-1 so far. They fell short against Miami in the final match of the Hurricane Invitational in Coral Gables, Florida. But, they're showing a lot of promise. I mean, they have a lot of potential, and they're going to really show what they're made of come this Friday.
And then who's all coming up to Bramlage to take on K-State, where K-State is undefeated? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They're 7-0 at Bramlage Coliseum. They're going to have some really, and I wouldn't say not so tough competition, but it's not going to be like it was in Miami where they were facing experience. They're going to be that first game against University of Wisconsin Green Bay. Not necessarily a strong team, even though they're 2-1. They've produced over 20 errors compared to their opponents, and their just attacking percentage right now is under 13%. So not necessarily a strong team. And then Friday they face Cal Berkeley. As I said earlier today, the Pac-12 has produced a lot of great volleyball talents. Cal isn't one of them. 10-20 last year. They even though they're 2-1 again, but they got creamed by Seattle just a week ago in their home tournament. And same deal. They don't have the offensive efficiency, 15% of their attacking percentage. But the real interesting match is going to be on Saturday against Nevada, Las Vegas. Undefeated 3-0, 26 wins last year, and they have some. Even though they don't have a lot of height, their front line 6'2", 6'2", 6'3". They produce a lot of blocks. They're very good defensively. They have 14. They had 14 blocks in the last game. Their tournament, so it's going to be really interesting to see how K-State responds to a very sound defensive team.
Very cool. Just to put you on the spot here, who do you think, if you could pick one player off this team that needs to have a solid tournament performance for K-State to go undefeated through the tournament and win their second consecutive Barney's Invitational, who is that player going to be and why?
Oh, it's definitely Alyssa Schultejans. I mean, she had to really step up in that Miami tournament because Kylie Zumax had a knee injury in the second game against Illinois State, which they still do not know if Kylie Zumac is going to play tomorrow. It's kind of in question. Had some light practice drills today, but they still don't know. It's up to the trainers and it's up to her. But going back on that topic, she had 11 kills against Illinois State and 10 kills against the University of Miami. So, and if Kylie Zumac does not play, she is going to have to step up big time because they play the exact same position, and she's a freshman still. She still has just a few games under her belt, not redshirt, true freshman. She's going to really have to step up big time if the Wildcats want to win the Barney's Invitational.
Very, very interesting. The freshman out of Silver Lake, Kansas, having to fill some big shoes with the reigning Big 12 Freshman of the Year out. We're going to be right back to wrap this all up. We're going to bring Andrew back in. We're going to go over the game itself. We're going to talk about players to watch. We're going to make our picks for not only K-State, but other games around the country. And we're going to tell you our score prediction for K-State and South Dakota. All right, and welcome back to the K-State Collegian video blog. We are going to go over our picks for this week, not only for K-State, but for other games around the country. We're going to start off with Louisville at Auburn. Louisville at Auburn. Andrew, Louisville at Auburn, who do you got?
I've got Auburn. They're complete on offense, they're complete on defense. Louisville, they're one of those teams that they fight you in the beginning, but I'm not sure that they have enough to hang with Auburn for a complete 4 quarters.
All right. Grant, kind of a controversial pick.
Yeah.
What do you got going on with Louisville at Auburn?
Well, I'm going with Louisville in this one. I know it's at Auburn, and I know Auburn is a very experienced team on both sides of the ball. But from what I saw last year, they just didn't take. It seemed like they didn't take every game seriously like they did with their national championship team. So I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't think they're going to take this game as seriously as they should. But, I certainly could be wrong, but I'm picking Louisville in this matchup.
All right, and yes, Gus Malzahn's Tigers with Bobby Petrino's Cardinals coming in. I also have Auburn. I just think they're too tough. They got too much coming back, especially on defense. I mean, they lose Nick Marshall, the quarterback, but the guy that they got backing them up, I think just as good, if not better. So, all right, we're going to move down a little bit to the west with Arizona State and Texas A&M playing in a neutral site game in Houston. Andrew, you got the Aggies or you got the Sun Devils?
I've got the Sun Devils in this one, and simply put because of this. Texas A&M does not play defense.
That's all it needs to be.
Yeah,
that's all it needs to be said. I agree. Grant, who do you got?
Considering that, College Station, Texas is only an hour and 30 minutes away from Houston, A lot of people are going to make that drive up there. It's going to feel like a home field advantage for Texas A&M. I'm picking the Aggies in this one. You know, their offense will just be clicking that game. Arizona State, I just don't.
Defense.
Their defense, it needs some work, but you know we'll see on Saturday. I think it'll be a high score. I think that'll be a high scoring game.
Okay.
I agree. I think it will be kind of a shootout. However, I like this Arizona State team. I think that they're a sleeper. Maybe you're in the Pac-12 South. I don't like USC. I don't think that they're going to live up to the hype. I like the Sun Devils. I like them. I like 3 touchdowns.
Wow.
I think it's going to be big. All right, we're going to move up north to former Big 12, now Big 10 player Nebraska, hosting the Mormons of BYU. The Cougars are coming in. Who you got? Nebraska against BYU.
I've got BYU winning this game simply because Taysom Hill, probably one of the more unsung players in the nation, one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks. Nebraska still having some defensive issues. Even though Mike Riley, the new coach at Nebraska coming up from Oregon State, he's brought a lot of energy back to that program after that Bo Pelini era, entertaining Bo Pelini era. But I just like I like the Cougars in this one. If you were to ask me this maybe 2 weeks from now, I would probably say Nebraska, but from the get-go, I think BYU is going to be ready to take them.
Grant, what about you?
Playing at Nebraska is one of the absolute toughest things to do in college football, and to even win is even tougher. I just, even though Nebraska's got a new coach and BYU has an experienced team, I just think the home field advantage will be just too much for them. They love their football down in Nebraska, so I'm going with the Cornhuskers in this one.
Yeah, I got to agree with Grant, and for that reason, BYU is going to be good, and I think they're kind of underrated. However, I also think Nebraska is too, and Mike Riley's a good coach. And Memorial Stadium opening weekend is going to be hopping. I got the Cornhuskers here. All right, we're going to move back over to Indiana. I was going to go back down south, but no, we're going to move back down over towards Indiana to South Bend, where Charlie Strong's Longhorns are coming in to take on the Fighting Irish. Who do you got?
Charlie Strong is going to start 2 offensive linemen against one of the best defenses in America. Notre Dame's going to win this one, and I want to say that it's going to be close. It's going to be less than the 9.5 points that they're calling for in Vegas, but you can't start 2 freshman offensive linemen and still have quarterback issues and expect to keep this game close. I think Notre Dame by a few touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm all with you, Andrew. Defense wins championships, and Notre Dame also has a more experienced offense as well. So, you're playing in South Bend. It's never easy. I'm definitely going with Notre Dame, but it won't be close.
And we're going to go 3 for 3 here. I also have the Irish, although I think it'll be closer than people thinks it is. All right, we're going to move into our lightning round to wrap this all up. First of all, for the K-State South Dakota game, what's your one player to watch in this game, Andrew?
It's got to be Jesse Ertz. His first ever career start as a K-State Wildcat. He's going to throw his first pass as a K-State Wildcat. I think he's pretty much been the man for Bill Snyder. Now he's on display.
Right.
I think it's Cody Cook. Stepping into the number 1 wide receiver slot after only receiving 528 passing yards, or receiving yards, excuse me. It's going to be tough to replace a guy like Tyler Lockett, but it'll be interesting to see how well he moves into that number 1 slot.
All right. Jesse Ertz, Cody Cook. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to say Dalton Reisner, the freshman, stepping in at center. That's a big, big spot to fill, especially for someone who's just now coming in from a small town in Colorado. He's got the stuff to handle it. Super nice kid, one of the best interviews on the team. I like to see how he's going to handle the pressure of a real game situation. All right, now we're going to go around. I want you to say who's going to win between K-State and South Dakota. I think I know the answer to that, but hey,
You never know.
For continuity's sake, let's just knock it out here. And the final score, Andrew, what do you got?
Kansas State 63, South Dakota 17.
With an experienced defense, obviously K-State, but I won't put K-State as high. I'm gonna go with 45-6 in this one.
All right,
K-State.
I'm kind of where Grant's at. Of course, I got K-State. I have them at about 48 points. In South Dakota, I have them at a touchdown and a field goal, 10 points. Thank you for sticking around for us for our first kind of bumpy first episode of the K-State Collegian Sports video blog. We'll be back next week as we preview the Cats heading down to San Antonio to take on UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners. You guys have a good week and have a good sports weekend.